opening. So welcome to 3 Yards Per Carry. My name is Alfredo Artiaga. Simon Clancy is here. Chris Kaufman is here. And we're going to be previewing Dolphins, Patriots. But as always, 305-800-PAIN. This show is brought to you by 305-800-PAIN. Just like the Dolphins kick off the season, you need to be ready too. After an accident, your first move should be calling 305-800-PAIN. Better Business Bureau accredited with an A-plus rating, your car accident personal injury specialist. Fast connection with trusted doctors and attorneys. Always ready to take your call 24/7. 305-800-PAIN. Again, 305-800-PAIN. All right, let's get into this. Were you
Every time
guys
an advert comes up, I always want Chris to poke his head around the side of the advert like this, and he won't do it. I keep
Hey, I did it this time. I did it
I
this
write in
time.
the chat, Chris, look around the advert. And he, but I didn't.
I
see
did it this time.
I couldn't see you. I just want you to like.
We're gonna check the tape. We're gonna check
like a
the
little
tape.
meerkat. Like that's what I want to see.
You're
I
just
don't know
you're
if you
just
guys-
about you're falling asleep where you're sitting.
I am. That's true. That is very true.
All right, we're going to start when the Dolphins have the football, but I don't know if you guys saw the press availabilities this week. They were delightful.
Not all of them, but some of them. Yeah.
The one that really stuck with me was Anthony Weaver saying that he really needs to find a way to get Willie Gay into the game.
I hate to laugh on that one.
I
But,
was under the impression that he controls that. The guy didn't play a single snap. I heard that and I'm like, what kind of drugs are these people doing over there?
it's a literal button push for him. But I hesitate to laugh because it's not really a joke, but at the same time, somebody on my among my Twitter followers had the best response I've ever seen to that, which was, clearly the Dolphins' problem is that they have too many good players.
Yeah, where you could just forget
Jokes
about the
aside,
guy.
though, I do think it like that sort of stuff does what. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, jokes aside, it does feel a little bit like those excuses and those reasonings seem to happen quite a lot. Like the game sort of tends to get away from the coaching staff a little bit. Like Daniel will often come in, post game and say, "Oh, we didn't run the ball as much because the game just got away from me a little bit." And that's a repeat offense that I keep hearing the coaches say. I find that really worrying because you just don't hear other coaching staff say that. You don't hear other head coaches come to the lectern and kind of say stuff like that. And that isn't the first time. And that to me, Chris, I find that a little bit odd, a little bit worrying.
Yeah, I think that you saw it in the game, and not that we want to just rehash the game we've already rehashed, but think about the fact that Tua is such a put it on the Discord the other day, but Tua is such an RPO play action guy, right? He's legendary, really, for his RPO game. It's teach tape in a literal sense with high schools, and they ran RPOs, play actions, probably about half the time that Tua is used to. I mean, if you look at the percentages and what we're used to seeing out of that offense, and it's like, oh, did we just not get to it because the game was 20-0 by halftime? But even at 20-0 halftime, you still have to run. You still have to run the ball some. You still have to run your offense. Time and time again, people have come up with all these analytics to say, the play action effectiveness isn't so much about, the fact that you're succeeding in running the ball. It's how you sell it. It's how well you sell it. So, is that a thing that they didn't get to? Is that, they did 2 RPOs in the game, 2 RPO pass attempts in the game. Normally, I think that would have been like 6 out of the pass attempts that you would have seen from Tua. They did, I think, maybe like 4 play actions. That certainly normally would have been 6 or 8. Nearly half of Tua's pass attempts in this league since 2020 are RPOs or play action. It's far and away the highest percentage of any quarterback since Tua was drafted. And it's just like, well, game got away from us. We didn't get to it. Didn't get to the run. Didn't get to Ollie Gordon. Meant to get to Ollie Gordon, but we didn't. Meant to get the Willie Gay on the field. No, we didn't. Like, okay, I guess meant to not get fired, but we did.
Yeah. Now we're gonna touch on another little piece of business before we move on to actually previewing this game. But Mike McDaniel and his availability on Tuesday said, guess we are crossroads with Waller. And he's going to play, or maybe he's going to be on our. All right. For those of you watching us on video, something weird something very weird happened. Those of you that are listening to us on audio, you're going to notice that nothing really happened because I'm going to make it look really, really, really good. I'm going to make it sound really, really, really good. But I guess I got cut off when I was asking this question. Earlier in the week, Mike McDaniel had an availability where he was talking about Darren Waller. And he kind of said, well, we're gonna do something right by the team, or he's gonna play this week, or he's gonna play next week, or he might not play this week. It's Thursday. He has not practiced yet. This is a weird thing because he can just play the guy. Okay. He can play the guy.
I mean, can he? Is he healthy enough? And by the way, what he said that was so eyebrow raising was later in the week, we're going to have to make a decision about whether he's going to be available to us for the season or whether we have to do what's best for the team. That was a real eye opener. That was him saying later in the week, we're going to decide whether we're just done with him. And, just period, as Simon implies. And I think they're very close to that. I hear they're very close to that. The feel from inside the building is he's going to be cut. And
this would not be an issue, would it, if we were Green Bay or we were Kansas City
right.
or we were Philadelphia or a well-run front office, a well-run team?
Sure.
But because it's who we are, and this
you get a little benefit of the doubt with those guys, right?
Of course you do. Of course you do. If you're Howie or if you're, Goody or whoever, you get that benefit of the doubt because your track record says that you've earned that, but not with this.
No, this is pretty. And I don't want to catastrophize a 6th round pick or $2 million, because ultimately that's what it boils down to. But it's not just the 6th round pick, or the $2 million, which, by the way, like in a football team where you lose out on a guy because of $1 million or $2 million in free agency, you know what I mean? And like, think about the Dolphins trying to get Calais Campbell back, and he chose the Cardinals. Oh, and the Cardinals did offer more money, that can matter a lot. Those $2 million can matter. 6th round picks sometimes can matter. I think those picks are a little overrated, but yeah. So it's the opportunity cost too, and it's Noah Fant didn't join us. He joined the Cincinnati Bengals. Why? Well, Darren Waller was already here.
Adam Schefter is reporting that the Dolphins held a players-only meeting on Tuesday this week in the wake of the loss in week 1. I mean, that is pretty early in the season to be doing that. So that's Schefter in the last few minutes. The Dolphins held a players.
Well, we lead the league in something. We lead the league in something.
Hey, there's the silver lining.
There you go. To make sure they all remain on the same page, apparently.
There's no way, and this will be the last question that we deal with the news of the week. Who knows? It's only Thursday. Man, they can make more news tomorrow. Okay, but we're recording today. This is gonna be my last.
Team can definitely make more news tomorrow.
Let's not. Okay, let's not. All right. Let's just go lazily into Sunday, play a football game, and be done with it. All right.
This team never gives us a normal one, Alf.
Let me just ask this. It's just a tag on to the Darren Waller thing. They do run the risk of looking like the biggest clowns anywhere if they release him and he goes elsewhere. And I think Drew Rosenhaus.
I think they look bigger clowns if he doesn't go anywhere else.
It's a tough call because if he goes somewhere, somebody else is paying him, which I'm happy to do. You know what I mean? That $2 million, somebody else start covering that bill. But if they release him and he doesn't go anywhere, then he just gets to pocket $2 million to he got the best gym membership anybody's ever gotten in your life. Like $2 million. He got paid $2 million to be a part of our gym and to just work out. That's a pretty good deal. You take that deal?
Yeah, this is just this is one of those things that you just throw onto the pile. Like, my God, what are you people doing? Like, what are you doing?
And again,
meanwhile,
it's right. Like, people always kind of pocket it and like, yeah, it's just a $2 million. It's just the tight. Well, but they put him tight end 1 on the depth chart, right? They talked him up when they signed him. He was part of the formula when they decided to pull that trigger on the Jonnu Smith trade, or Jonnu Smith, Minka Fitzpatrick, Jalen Ramsey. Yes, there were significant other parts on that trade, but he was part of that conversation. He was part of that, and so, yeah. This is definitely a black eye.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about when the Dolphins have the ball. Look, this is a good defense. I think we knew it was going to be a good defense. I thought it was a good defense last year. I think Miami had a lot of success against it in Miami the second time around when they had Tua Tagovailoa and they were up against Drake May. Drake May did not have a good game. He was a rookie. But, this defense is much improved. It was good last year, I thought, but Miami had a lot of success against it last year. It was mostly through the passing game. I guess you can say maybe you like his Buffalo game better, but Tua did throw for 320 and 4 touchdowns against New England and was relatively clean, did not put the ball in harm's way. That was a team that played a lot of man coverage, so maybe Tua was helped in that regard. What kind of defense are they going to see this time around, Simon?
I think it'll be zone. I mean, that's what Vrabel has done best. Tua is 0-2 against Vrabel. You go back to 2023, the Titans just took away all of Tua's kind of hotspots by playing Tampa 2. 2 safeties over the top, the pole runner. They used Amani Hooker, I'm pretty sure, in that game as the pole runner to sort of take away those kind of daggers concepts that we like so much, middle of the field between the numbers. And I think you go back and look at the All-22 tape of last week, and there are some extremely instructive things there the more you watch it in terms of, the blitzing that Lou Anarumo did. We talked about it on last week's show, not a particularly that's the wrong word, not a particularly aggressive blitzer. And yet he blitzed so much because he just knew that
he does blitz fakes, like, kind of
sim pressures and all those sorts of things. But he was sending guys left, right, and center, and we couldn't handle it. And I think we've discussed this off air, and we've discussed this in our Discord. But the pre-snap, the lack of pre-snap recognition from Tua was extremely worrying in that game multiple times, where blitzes were coming and nothing happened. There were no changes. We were carrying out play action fakes when Achane was supposed to be blocking blitzers and not doing it. Nothing was identified pre-snap. That was a huge concern. So I think, pressure will be one thing. And the Patriots certainly did a very good job, an extremely good job of that last week. Harold Landry had 2.5 sacks, but they had 22 pressures last week, which is a phenomenal number. And our offensive line, I don't think held up particularly well. I thought Paul played very well. I thought Brewer played well. Everybody else really struggled. And now we're playing with Larry Borum and Keon Smith on that right side. That to me would be a huge emphasis factor as to, okay, we might be in some trouble here against a defense that played pretty well in terms of pressurizing the pass. So they gave up 389 yards through the air, but they were outstanding against the run. 19 carries for 39 yards for Ashton Genty. So, they were I think they're the 5th best team against the run in the league. Really held the Raiders' run game in check, and were very, very physical up front. So I think you will see a lot of Tampa 2. And I think that, to shut down the offense, you sort of take away the head of the snake. You don't want Tua getting in rhythm if you're the Patriots defense. That's not what happened against Indy. And I think it's indicative of something that Omar talked about in the press conference that Tua really wasn't having. But those interceptions, those turnovers, they do come in bunches when he's not in rhythm. And you see him being knocked out of rhythm by the fact that the early throws, the early script, when Tua starts 6 for 6 or 7 for 7 or 8 for 9 and everything's zinging, but he's going to be fine. It's going to be a good day. But when it's a little bit off, it's, there's a pick, there's a this, there's a that, there's a sack, there's a pressure, we go 3 and out, whatever. That's when those interceptions start to come, because he just, for whatever reason, from the neck up, it just seems to be a problem, and it was a huge problem last week, Chris, and we've got to kind of try and get away from that.
Well, if the defensive coordinator has a bead on, they always say take away the first read, and they've said it for ever and ever and ever. Well, sometimes good luck, because that's easier said than done. Taking away Miami's first read, but I think that when teams and defenses get a beat on that and actually are on top of their film study, actually have a good feel for taking away that first read, that is when you'll see it right away, and you see it throughout the game. And there's uncomfortable Tua. Uncomfortable Tua definitely struck this weekend. There was no excuse for the way that he performed in that game, particularly the pre-snap, and being able to identify. Pre-snap has been where he's been good in the past, right? And because that's part of the reason that he can get to his intended read, is because he's so good pre-snap. Then he's able to anticipate, and he's able to manipulate the defense in order to get to the guy that he wants, and things like that. He had none of that in that game, and I find very little excuse for it, except that I floated the idea perhaps he's somehow diminished, or just didn't have the right offseason that he needed to have to be prepared and ready to roll in the beginning of the season. I don't know. But, I think that whether they play man or zone, I don't know. I think, Hassam Patel, part of our crew here, was talking about they didn't play a lot of zone in the first week, I think, if I, heard him right. So maybe it could be a little less predictable during the game. What I do know is the pressure situation is really fierce with this team. Obviously they got the 22 pressures last week, but it's not just that, it's the personnel. Look at Milton Williams, and what he can do against our interior guys. And we're now going to have a right side with Keon Smith, ouch. We're on a right side of Larry Borum, also ouch, less ouch, but still ouch. I think Keon Smith at right guard is definitely bullseye. They're going to put a bullseye on that guy. And then Jonas Avaiania, as much as we like him, he's a rookie, and he's not identifying everything, and doesn't always have the communication with frankly, Ollie Connolly brought it up, Simon. They didn't have any communication on the offensive line with
or anywhere else, frankly,
or anywhere else. Right? Yeah, you're right. It was abysmal. So they're really gonna. I mean, they got to Miami with the blitzes that they did do, with a lot of several times those DB blitzes were just not identified, were just not picked up, were not accounted for at all. Well, if you didn't do that last week against the Colts, then you're going to hate it this week. Against the New England Patriots, because they will do that more, and they did already do that more, and so you'll see some of that, and that pressure situation that could be deadly. It could absolutely be deadly against this team. So, it's normally I'd call a bounce back. I said this off air. Normally, I would call I give particular deference to offenses that have personnel that have been together for a while, because years and years of being together, you have a lot of unspoken communication and shared understanding to where you can lock it in and bounce back. I'm not sure that Miami's offense, based on what I saw last week, has it in them to bounce back, and I sure as hell don't think the defense has it in them to bounce back. So, so this is going to be tough to deal with that pressure situation. If they can't get the ball out fast, and then they're toast.
I think they're going to have to run the ball a lot, and I would be a heavy run commit, and it wouldn't just be banging Achane for 15 times before Ollie Gordon even sees the field. It would be a healthy, heavy dose of Gordon. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't be hitting Gordon early, tiring them out, and then booming Achane in the second half. If this is a 25-30 carry game, I don't think that's the end of the world, quite frankly. And I think it speaks to, again, something that Ollie Connolly talked about, is that we are not flexible in terms of how we can maneuver our way around the board of a game offensively. We sort of stick very much to the script, and we Tua is an extremely inflexible quarterback, and by by turn, the offense then becomes extremely inflexible. But I do think at some point a commitment to the run, and it's hard to say you're down 17-0 on the road against Indianapolis, but even to just chill everybody out a little bit and put a sustained drive together and get some points on the board and let everybody get to the sideline and think, okay, we're okay, those sorts of things, rather than just continually pass with all the things that were happening peripherally. The lack of communication, the pressures that were coming, the inability to identify things pre-snap, the inability to identify 8 droppers post-snap. Those things were extremely worrying. So yeah, I do have the same concerns as you do, Chris.
Counterpoint. If they focus on stopping the run early, if the New England Patriots, if they focus on stopping the run early, they know they're not going to have to stop the run late. Against this team, right? So it's not even from a game planning standpoint, if they're able to do some things early to stop the run, and particularly with Miami's defense as terrible as it looked last week, if they succeed in some early portions of the game in stopping the run, which they did largely against Genti, you mentioned it, right? Then they know they're not going to have to do it late. And so you got to wonder.
Yep. A little bit of news for this game. Christian Gonzalez is likely not going to play. He hasn't practiced in a month. So, yeah, it'd be hilarious if he just runs out there on Sunday. Okay.
I mean, you hope for everybody's sake that he's not playing, because, again, as we discussed, probably the second best pure follow you around the field cover guy in the league after Pat Surtain, and that's not who you want to see coming off an absolute mauling on the road in Indianapolis. You don't want to see an all pro caliber corner coming out opposite you.
Yeah, and Kyle Duggar has been demoted. If you watch that game, he's been demoted on that team, and he won't be on that team much longer.
He made it all 7 snaps.
Yeah.
Just before we go to break, I just want to mention, because actually I was just looking at Mike Vrabel's press conference, and Vrabel said, they have a fullback that has versatility and can play on the inner line of scrimmage, motions, usually and this is really important, usually every big running play they have, he is in the heart of the run game. He is somewhere near it. And that, to me, goes back to the very first play of the game that we ran against Indianapolis. 2-back set, I formation, Ingold absolutely crushed a linebacker, opened up a big hole for Achane, 9-yard pickup. I don't think I counted another run play, I don't know if you guys did, where we ran out of that formation. Ingold was motioning back in and split zone stuff and all that kind of thing, but not actually just purely blocking. Apart from the short yardage Ollie Gordon run, I don't remember any other times where it was just like, kind of the equivalent of an old-fashioned boss block, just the fullback coming in, just smacking somebody in the mouth and leading the way. And, when you've got Mike Vrabel, the head coach, saying, look, this guy is an unbelievable fullback and he does this perfectly, and we never do it, it kind of just highlights the problem, right?
Yeah.
Well, somebody posted a chart of every single run, and it was 12. You know that they had 11 successful runs, meaning 11 above league average for the week in yards per carry. They had 3 over 7 yards. So they actually had success. The only problem is they ran it 10 times.
Yeah, and well, I think that the most egregious is Simon mentioned the short yardage with Ollie Gordon. The very next play, they're on there with 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, and Alec Ingold. Your boy Alec Ingold is on the field. It's 22 personnel. You're against their nickel, and it's 1st and 10. Yeah, they have 5 defensive backs on the field, and you've got 2 tight ends and a fullback out there. Ram it down their throats.
I know. I mean, look, we ran 2-back groupings at the second highest rate in the NFL last season. Was it 30.8% or 30.3% or something? If you're going to play standard 3-corner nickel against our big groupings, then we're going to run you all over. But if you play heavier defensive personnel, 3 safety nickel or base or whatever, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to those receivers matched on linebackers and safeties. Yeah. And it goes back. And again, I'm sorry that we keep talking about Ollie Connolly, but he wrote a piece about the Dolphins offensively, where there was a particular situation where we had literally man-to-man ISO in 3 receivers set on one side, and Tanner Connor with 3 defensive, essentially blitzers lined up over him. And we didn't check out of what was coming, i.e. the blitz, to the fact that arguably the fastest, still the fastest receiver in the NFL, is literally one-on-one on the outside against a backup corner, and we did nothing about it. And Tua got crunched by Nick Cross. So, there are lots of challenges facing this offense this week, and one of them has got to be what happens before the ball even comes out of the hand of Aaron Brewer into Tua's hands.
It was so perplexing that you wonder, like, can you turn that around? What was that? What even was that?
Yeah, it was complete incompetence and a meltdown that it happens. Most teams have one or two meltdowns a season. It's just odd to see it week one.
That level of unpreparedness, given everything that had been the mantra that had been hammered home through the summer, that I just think that's different. There are obvious team meltdowns throughout the season. Even Super Bowl champions have them. The Eagles had a bad game last year. The Chiefs have had bad game. This was different. This was an unpreparedness and an embarrassment across the board. Coaching, players, and I think it's epitomized by the fact that we've had a players-only meeting
in week one.
Which
they didn't just get outplayed. They didn't just get outplayed. In other words, like they were not on top of their stuff.
You've got Tua at the lectern saying that he's going to be very interested on Tuesday. Who's going to be coming in and watching film and doing that? That was a damning indictment to me of the situation. And some people said, well, maybe it was taken out of context. It might have been. But I think the context now that we know that there was a players-only meeting is real, and there are significant, and it is the death knell. It's the death knell to Mike McDaniel. It really is.
And also, the fact that Tua is saying that, and bless him for saying that, right? But also, he was not the one that was on top of his stuff.
No,
he was the one that looked almost the most unprepared of anybody on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
All right. Between busy schedules, we're going to go to break right now. But before we do, let me tell you about Factor. Between busy schedules and summer plans, sometimes all I've got is a couple of minutes. Factor helps me eat smarter with tasty, chef-prepared meals that are dietitian approved and deliver right to my door. And now with 65 weekly meals made for how I live and what I like to eat, I've got even more ways to fit in a real meal wherever the day takes me. More variety, more meals. Choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Support your wellness goals. Enjoy even more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good-for-you fats. Savor global flavors from the first time. Try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. I had a honey mustard chicken today that was actually pretty good. Problem is that I made a mistake and I ordered all chicken for the week, so I'll be clucking by tomorrow. So eat smart at factormeals.com/3yards50off. That's the number 3 yards 50 off, and use the code 3yards50off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code 3yards50off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchases. And, of course, Underdog. Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. By the way, I am on Josh Jacobs' anytime touchdown tonight, so all he has to do is score a touchdown. And Jaden Daniels, higher than 228.5 passing yards. I feel pretty good about those two. Download the app today and sign up with the promo code 3yards, that's the number 3 yards, to score $50 in bonus funds when you play with your first $5. That's promo code 3yards. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money.
18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms dfs.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
And we are back.
Alf, did you just
Impressed
go
by
like
how-
Micro Machines guy on us like real quick? Like that was impressive.
Impressed? That was
Yeah,
impressive?
I'm very impressed.
Don't be too impressed. That's just a button I press to speed up my voice.
Oh, too bad. I'm gonna tell Josh Norris on you. He's the head guy, underdog, friend of mine.
Oh,
Good
really?
guy.
He is good.
Really good guy.
He's really fun to hang around, actually, in those
Oh, is he?
all-star practices and stuff. Yeah. He's
All right. When the Dolphins are on defense, that wasn't even good last time either. So there's like nothing to hang your. Well, I guess Riley Patterson's okay. Did he
Who,
even play
sorry?
a snap? Did he?
Oh,
Riley
the
Patterson.
the
Yeah.
kicker.
Did he even go onto the field last week? No, right?
Didn't he kick off? Or was
No, because we hit the two-point conversion, right?
No, and Bailey kicked
at the start
off.
of the game, though, didn't he?
No, Bailey kicked off to
No,
start
it was
the
Bailey
game.
kicking off. Wow.
Good God.
The guy got
So he
activated and
did.
just
So
sat down
Riley
the sideline.
Patterson did all right. He did all right.
Yeah, he was
Good.
actually pretty good. Yeah, he was pretty good last week.
Because he
Well,
didn't play.
The defense has a lot to do this week, meaning play defense. How about that? Drake May, Hassan Patel shared a number with me that I found fascinating. For an offense that wasn't that good last week, he had 3.8 seconds from snap to throw last week, which meant the Raiders were getting him off the spot, and he was essentially bailing on the pocket and throwing on the run a lot. And I guess that's how the Raiders got some success. So I guess we're back to this again. We said it last week. If you could get Drake May off of his spot, that's half of the battle already won. That's how they had success against him last year, and that's how teams last year had success against that Patriot offense, which is much improved on the offensive line mostly. But the weapons kind of have the same look. I really like Demario Douglas. And I understand that Stephon Diggs is there, but Stephon Diggs is probably on the way out. Demario Douglas is a hell of a player. They're going to have to be on their P's and Q's watching him wherever he goes. I was also kind of shocked to learn that, and I have the snap count here somewhere, but it was in the 40s for Ramondre Stevenson, and Travion Henderson only had 20-some odd snaps. I would expect that to be reversed eventually and soon. What do you make of this Patriots offense, Simon? Mainly Drake May, but what have they put around him? So
Keyshawn Butte was the star last week.
he had 100 yards, I believe, right?
Yeah, Demario Douglas falls into your great. Oh, I'm not having a go at you when I say your great Tanacotta comment, but Keyshawn Butte caught 2 of 7 passes for -2 yards last week in week 1. So, which is one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever come across. But what do I think of Drake? I think it's really interesting because I think that when we played them last year,
You just said Keyshawn Butte did that, though. Did you mean Demario?
Yeah, sorry, I meant Demario Douglas did that. Yeah,
I
sorry.
was going to say. We just got done saying he had like a 100-yard game.
No, Butte had the 100-yard game, didn't he?
Yeah, Keyshawn Butte had like the 2 for negative.
Then I said he really loved Demario Douglas, and I was just saying he had the weirdest
totally
stat line.
Threw you off.
Yeah. I was also asleep. What I think was interesting in the game last year, obviously we creepers, sim pressures. That's what Weave has been known for. That's what he was known for in Baltimore, kind of spinning the dial on those sorts of things. I think we generated unblocked blitzers at a highest rate in the NFL since the start of the 2024 season. What I think the new offensive scheme will do and has done by looking at a cursory look at the All-22 with Josh McDaniels, who's obviously back, is the goal is for Drake May to essentially recognize blitz threats and change the protection. Ironically, something we talked about in the first half, pre-snap to make sure everybody's blocked rather than executing those kind of post-snap hot reads that he was having to do last year when we played them against unblocked rushers. And I think if the Dolphins are blocked again in terms of their front trying to get home, as we were last week so dramatically against the Colts, as we know, the secondary is just not good enough. They know Jack Jones really well. He obviously played with the Patriots. And I think the bonus for us would be that, this is a matchup against a young quarterback operating a new system. So you'd expect Weaver to, throw in some. Then you'd expect that against the substandard quarterback in Daniel Jones, and that didn't happen. What I would expect massively, and we talked about it in Miami, I would also expect the Patriots to be running the ball an awful lot, with Stevenson, but especially, I don't think they did a good enough job last week of getting Travion Henderson into the game. I would expect a heavy dose of the Ohio State rookie, both catching and running the ball.
So I think, speaking of, I'll start with your last one on Travion Henderson, because with his speed, something that I think is going to happen on Miami is I think Dante Trader is going to play a lot more. I think that he was one of the few, positive points of the defense last week. I think that, when it comes to young guys with Anthony Weaver's defense, the future is always going to be pulled forward to now. For those young guys, especially when the guys in front of them are just not doing it, they're not playing very well, then they're going to say, well, we might as well get the young guys on the field and start really, getting their feet wet and getting them going. So I think Jordan Phillips is going to play a lot more. And not just because Benito Jones is out of the game. I think that Dante Trader is going to play a lot more. The interesting thing to watch with Dante Trader is going to be how aggressive he can be with his, he does have good instincts. But if somebody else fails on, in terms of the defense, in terms of contain and doing their job and things like that, it can really expose him because he doesn't have the athleticism to change gears and to change angles, to re-angle on the ball. And if you don't have the athleticism to re-angle on Travion Henderson, he is gone. So I think that is something to watch in that run game of theirs with Travion Henderson. Otherwise, I think that you kind of said it. I think that if you're going to try to move Drake May off his spot, you're going to try to, you're going to try to be a little bit more physical with some of these receivers. And again, I don't know if Miami has the ability to do that, which is sad. But yeah, so I think that the running game with them is going to be very important. Second week in a row I'm saying this. I realize that I wonder about the tight ends with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. Last week it was clearly Tyler Warren and Mo Alley Cox made a big play. That's going to be there for the New England Patriots against the Dolphins this week. So if the New England Patriots can make things easy for Drake May, because the Dolphins are allowing them to, by getting the ball to, those guys underneath and off play action and things like that, then they're just going to take it. They're going to take that all day. And so, what you got to see the Dolphins actually do is physically challenge some people and not allow such free access into the holes in their zones, and actually play tighter zone and not lose their assignment constantly. Somebody was losing their assignment on virtually every play last week, and so getting on top of that is going to be such a big deal. But otherwise, that's kind of the one thing that I would say, that wouldn't surprise me if it develops during the game, though, is a Travion Henderson big run, victimizing some of the players out there for their lack of discipline, and some others for lack of speed.
Yeah, the more I look at this, and I spoke about this last week, coming off of that game, that if you're looking for quick fixes, usually there is none. Okay, there are no quick fixes, but you could go a long way to remedying some of their issues by just doing very simple things like playing a lot more man coverage. Last week, you could almost see it. Like they competed sometimes when they were in man, mostly when it was down to the red zone is whenever they had their successful plays. But they give up the ghost at that point because you're giving up points every single time they got down there. But in zone, it just looked to me like a team that had no clue whatsoever on how to play zone, and they were way too mindful of their leverage and what they were giving up deep when the Colts weren't threatening you deep. And this is a team that's probably not going to threaten you deep either. And if you start allowing all that space underneath, Drake May, I have seen get very comfortable taking checkdowns, taking option routes, because he could throw a lot of those things. He could throw back shoulder, he could throw into those voids in the zone and be extremely successful. That's when he's had his best games. When he's had his worst games is when he is moving off the spot, just like last week. And I think the only way you can accomplish that is by playing man and taking a little bit more risk and possibly opening yourself up to the deep ball somewhere, which I don't think there's a big threat of with this team. I think the big threat with this team is whatever they give up underneath and allowing some of those guys to be just running around, with the football, namely Trevion Henderson is who I fear the most. And I do fear that they're going to switch those snap counts from Ramondre to Trevion this week, because I think it's inevitable at this point, in my opinion.
You trust Rasul Douglas and man, like against this team? Because I'm just saying,
with help, and I trust him in short zone.
It's not get grabby. He's not a man corner. He's never been a man corner.
Yeah. Because that's your damned if you do, and damned if you don't for the Miami Dolphins defense. If you play man, that's good for Jack Jones. That's not good for Rasul Douglas. If you play zone, then you're getting more comfortable with Rasul, or a better comfort zone for Rasul Douglas, especially if he spends this week really getting on top of the scheme, because he didn't seem like there's a reason he wasn't going to play much last week. He wasn't going to play much last week until Storm Duck got hurt. And I think the reason is because he just got here. He literally just got here. He's learning the defense. If he got really on top of it this week on the game plan, really on top and knew his assignments, then you could make a case for him, settling down in zone. But if they're playing a lot of man, I'm not sure I trust that, even if he does get on top of his stuff this week. But it would help Jack Jones. Then again, is Jack Jones worth helping? Because this guy was unemployed heading into training camp for a reason. And so, I think that it's really caught between a rock and a hard place, I think.
So we're on now to when the Dolphins are on defense and the Patriots have the ball. Where do you see where Miami can gain some success against the Patriots? And it's weird saying this, but emulate some of the stuff that Las Vegas did successfully last week, Simon?
Well, Las Vegas did so successfully throwing the ball because they've got a better quarterback in Geno Smith. I think Miami are going to have to try and establish the run game. And if they do so, that will open up getting the ball out, getting the ball down the field. I don't want to be throwing into the middle of the field, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. I hope that home field advantage plays into it and the Dolphins hit their stride early. But I think they'll catch a break without Gonzalez being there. The problem with being able to drop back and throw and getting the ball down the field what is it, a year now since Tyreek's got caught a 30-plus yard pass, is the fact that the left side of the offensive line has got the recipe for absolute and unequivocal disaster written all over it. And I think they're probably going to have to keep a tight end in. They're going to have to do a lot of stuff to make sure that doesn't become a huge issue, especially when you're facing a guy, Howard Landry, had 2.5 sacks against a significantly better side of the offensive line than he's going to come up against this weekend. So that would be my concern, Chris.
Yeah, I think that we're talking about how can Miami have some success envisioning it. It is clearly the run game, and it's for many reasons, but not least of which because of that right side, as you said, Larry Borum and Keon Smith. I think that when you're facing with that, the thing that they can still do kind of is run block. The thing that I don't trust either of them to do is pass protect. The thing that I'm not really trusting right now is Tua in the passing game, based on how he played last week and how unprepared he was. And so, this is going to come down to you go ahead and you flex your run coordinator skills, get the ball to the outsides, and
over the left side, use the fullback.
Yeah, over the left side, get it out and get it outside, over the left side, up the middle, everything. Like they're going to have to do all of that. I tend to think with this defense that they can get the outsides, but then again, the Raiders didn't necessarily. So, but I think that find a way, flex your run coordinator skills, and just stay committed to that, and just do it over and over and over again, because that's probably just your best bet.
All right, it's time to pick the game. Look, they looked like dog shit last week against the Colts. Traditionally, especially Tua, has always bounced back in a big way after looking like dog shit after last week. I can't envision this team looking any worse than they did last week. They're at home. I still think it'll be a slog. Although they've had a lot of success against this team, and they've actually have a string of blowouts against the Patriots. I believe it's 4 in a row by 2 scores, especially in Miami. I think this will be a slog. Let's call it Miami 24, Patriots 21. Simon.
New England 20, Miami 16.
Chris?
I would normally want to go with a bounce back, but I'm sorry. When you have a performance that bad, it takes you a while to dig out of it. It does. I've seen a lot in this league. It takes you a while to dig out of that performance. That was very much akin to how 2019 started. And 2019 started, a certain way. It was our tank year, and you say, well, we're not tanking and stuff like that, but that it is how you played. So I think that they're going to be outmatched again. And this is going to be something like 26 to 13 or something like that. It's going to take a while to dig out of this. It really is.
All right, and that's it. There is no more. We will talk about the results of this game on Monday, but till then.
Cheers, guys.
All right, get some sleep, Sam.
Yeah, we'll do. See you later.
All right.
Hassam, thank you for the stuff.